What he does in the show is basically host all people who are into anything football, coaches, players, uh, and it's an absolutely show. I do hope that his personal experiences can. But I do hope that you guys enjoy my chat with Taps, and I do hope that you do. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the episode of the Creators Connect series. My name is Luca, and you can call me that camera guy. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your love and support. I truly, truly appreciate it. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing if you like this video. In today's episode of the show, we're joined by a very, very good friend of mine, someone I look up to, someone who inspires me a lot. His name is Tapiwa Manungo, and he hosts a show called Talking Football CW. And what they basically do on the show, what he basically does on the show, is host all kinds of people who are into soccer in one way or the other. So soccer coaches, soccer players, past players, legends, reporters, the whole lot. It's an absolutely amazing show, and I would advise for you to go and tune in to that. I'll leave the link in the description below. But I do hope that you guys enjoy my chat with Taps, and I do hope that you can learn a thing or two from his personal experiences. Just sit back, relax, and let's connect with Mr. Manungo. Ready.
Every time.
Heavy. Okay, first and foremost, I just love to say thank you, Mr. Manungo, for joining me on this show, on the podcast. It's truly a pleasure and an honor to not only have a friend on, someone who I'm close to, but to have someone who has a bright mind and someone who inspires me. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. Really appreciate the platform.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. And I think just for the sake of everybody watching the show, can you please just introduce yourself? Tell them who you are, what you're all about, and what it is that you do creatively as well.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Tapiwa Manungo. I'm also a talk show host, just like you. I have my own show called Talking Football ZW, which really focuses on interviewing footballers from across the globe, just asking them about what they're doing, their lives, and just things soccer related. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what I do. And I'm also a soccer player on the side. I'm also in school. I'm also studying business administration and sports science. Yeah.
We love to see it. We love to hear it. It's super cool. And I think I know you from just to give a bit of background as well for people who don't know. I know Tabs from way back in high school. We really used to look up to you.
Yeah.
We go a long way back, but I think you were super cool in high school because you started playing first team soccer at such a young age. It was unorthodox and unheard of to see such a young player. I think you were 14, 15 at the time.
Yeah, I was actually 14. I was actually 14. I didn't really expect that at that time.
And did the kids just look like a dress when you were wearing it? Funny, man. No, but it's super funny. Yeah, but it's super cool. I think just why I'm mentioning that is because it's not a surprise to see you deep into soccer still now, having a show, a podcast, a talk show where you host soccer players, soccer coaches, women in soccer as well, everything soccer. And it's definitely not a surprise. You love it so much. It's definitely a passion of yours. Yeah, but what was the inspiration behind this talk show? Tell us the backstory, when it started, what inspired you, and your journey so far.
Thank you for the question. It's a really good question. For me, talking football, the idea actually came, I would say, when I was in high school. You know, like I always attended those matches in Zimbabwe, like a lot. I used to go and watch like many of the teams like Cape United, Dynamos, those teams. And I was always curious that, I mean, I know these players, but I don't know their story. But I know Lionel Messi and I know his story. So for me, I just found it. For me, what made me start it was curiosity, because I always saw that those players, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to them. So I really wanted to hear their story, like how did they make it? Because I was also I also wanted to make it professional too, but I didn't know how to go about it. So I thought maybe if I could talk to some of the players, I mean, I would learn something, and maybe it would inspire and motivate me to go where they are as well. So for me, that's something also that made me start this, and also to just hear their stories, to just hear like the adversities they go through, the hard work they have to put on the field, and everything. It was actually fascinating to me. So that's what made me start it. And luckily, last year we were in quarantine. It was a blessing in disguise for me. So it
Yeah,
actually,
for a lot of us it was actually.
yeah, it actually gave me that time and that space to just think about this idea and to just implement it. And luckily, I had the time, and I managed to have a couple of contacts back then to just help me start up the adventure. And I mean, it was tough at first, but yeah, I mean, it picked up.
It's huge. It's huge. I think just to pick up on a couple of things you just mentioned there, it's learning the backstories of people. And unfortunately, when you were younger, there wasn't a platform that allowed you to dig deep into these people's stories. A platform that was sitting down with these soccer players and having them not so much grilled, but having them share and tell people the stories of what they actually go through. And I think it's the same thing. It's the same thing for me with this podcast. It's like when you see them on the pitch and when you see them living life from afar, everything looks rosy and good. I think at the very least.
That's true.
When you don't know much, it's like, oh flip, I want that life. But knowing the journey of how it got them there and what they had to go through, and even when they are in, I guess, quote unquote, their prime, things aren't always easy. So I think having that kind of information before you step in as a young player or as a young creator, for me, it's good to know that it's not always going to be easy. So I appreciate you and
that's
the
true.
show and
That's true,
what you have going on.
Because like when I was talking to some of the players, I mean, no one really talks about the mental aspect of the game, the mental health.
Yes.
I talked to most of the players who've left home to play in South Africa. I talked to the PSG women's goalkeeper who was playing a trade in France, and she's from America. I mean, you hear the stories, like it's not easy for a soccer player. I mean, we actually think that they're getting paid, they're good, but at the end of the day, money is not everything, because you're gonna need family, you're gonna need someone to talk to when things are going tough. But you're away from home, so it's not so easy, man. It's not so easy. But those are the other things that people don't talk about that we dive into in my podcast.
It's definitely not easy, and I mean, speaking about a shift and being in a space where you aren't at home and you need family and sometimes feeling alone. You are currently studying and playing soccer in the United States. You're Zimbabwean, but you're studying and playing soccer in the United States. How was that move for you? I know this is a little bit outside the context of your content, but this is about you. This is about who you are as an individual. How was that move from Zim to the United States and being able to cope being in a foreign land and then also being far away from people that you're used to and then having to build friendships and becoming comfortable in that space?
I mean, it has been an adventure, bro. Like I would say it's been an adventure. That's the word I would use to describe it. I mean, I came here. I mean, I hadn't been away from home for a long time, and I'm just used to being at home. The only time I'm away from home is like when we go for matches when I was in high school and tours, but which is like 1 week, which is manageable. But this was actually my first time going away from home. And for me, at first, I found it as a culture shock because America is way different from Zim.
Way different, bro. Way different.
Yeah, you see. So it was a culture shock for me, and I came as a soccer player. First couple of months, I tore my ACL. I was told I'm out for 12 months, and ACL, it's something that they say is the most dangerous injury in sport. So they give you chances like you have this percent of chance of coming back. So for me, it was actually terrifying because I was really concerned because I had come here on a full scholarship for soccer. So it
Mhm.
was actually hard for me during that time. And yeah, it was really hard with this injury coming back. And,
Mm.
things are picking up though. I mean, I'm playing again, I'm happy. And we actually
Yeah.
won our championship this year. So it was something huge after coming back from ACL and stuff,
From an
winning the
injury.
championship. Yeah, winning the
Mm.
championship. The first one for the school in 18 years was huge. So,
That's
and yeah,
huge.
like I would also say like talking football has helped me as well. I mean, running that podcast, it has helped me because I was actually on the brink of quitting soccer last summer before I started talking
Wow.
football, and just talking to people, and I've interviewed many Zimbabwean players, and they've
Mm.
told me where they've come from, and it hasn't been rosy for them, but they kept on going. Now,
Yeah.
some of them are playing for the national team, some of them are playing for big clubs in South Africa. So
Mm.
it's something that also motivated me and kept me going, and that's something that made me also like want to do more of talking football as well, just to
Mm.
educate the next person that I mean you might be in a tough environment right now, but it's just temporary. If you work,
Mm.
I mean, you'll get your opportunities. Yeah.
Mm. That's huge, bro. That's huge. That's like super huge. And, especially like for me, I feel the same way. Being able to sit down and chat to people, I think I I sometimes feel like I'm getting more from it than the people who watch my show, because I learn so much in the
That's
heat
true.
of the moment, and
That's
I
true.
get to ask the questions. People who watch my show watch it after the fact. They don't get to pick out questions they want to ask, and I can only imagine how many questions all the other kids who watch your show have to these footballers. But I feel like I'm
Yes.
so privileged and honored to be able to sit down and have conversations with people like you. And I'm like, I mean, like you're saying, you're on the
Yeah.
brink of quitting, right? And then you have a conversation. It takes one person to have a conversation with, who changes that whole dynamic, changes that whole perspective. So I think I love being in a creative space where you can draw inspiration from so many different people. You can
Yes,
learn from so
definitely.
many different people. Yeah, and I've seen that in your show as well, and I absolutely love the show and the things that you have going on.
Thank you so much.
But how do you decide who you want to have on the show? Do you have people that you've always looked up to, or do you see certain types of news and you're like, this guy seems to have an interesting story? How do you go about? Because I mean, there's tons and tons of people you could be speaking to.
Yeah. For
What's your decision? How do you
for,
work a decision?
for me, to be honest, my criteria is usually like people I used to look up to. There are
Mm-hmm.
some people I used to look up to, and I'm like, I never wished I could talk to, and I was just like, let me give it a shot, and let me sell my idea to them. And I've always
Yeah.
wanted to talk to them and hear their stories, and also some of the players that are misunderstood by the media. The media is always like trying to sell the papers. So
Mm.
just trying to give those players a platform to just say their side of the story, which the media sometimes doesn't give them the platform. So those are
Mm-hmm.
some of the criteria I use, and sometimes I actually do posts on my Instagram to ask the viewers who they want next, and I'll also
That's
try
huge. That's big.
to work on that as well, because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, the show is for the people. The people want to
Yeah.
watch the show, so they also have to have a say in the process of deciding who comes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love
those are
that. I
some of
love
the
that.
criteria.
I love that, especially the part about the unbiased opinion, because, like you're saying, the mainstream media has got a grip on what news people hear and what news people don't hear. If they really want you to be at the top of the game, they will really elevate you and say all these good things. But at the same time, they can take one mistake or one small thing you do and make it the worst thing you've ever done and bring you down as well. So I love that idea of you having a platform where people can say their story, and it's unpolluted, it's
Yeah.
unbiased, and it's not implicated or forced by any kind of outside media. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you realize that you tend to grow as you continue to do this thing. You get more followers, you get more viewers, and you get bigger profiles onto your show. And
True.
more often than not, we've seen it happening with so many different people who start off small and genuine and unbiased, but as they grow, they start to get influenced by outside media, getting paid to cover certain stories and certain things like that. Are you
Yeah.
afraid of that kind of thing happening to you? Do you think about those things and kind of mentally prepare for when times like that do possibly come?
I mean, for me, it's something that's at the back of my mind. Really, for me, talking football is something I just do to bring out the truth, to bring out the stories of players. I mean,
Okay.
luckily these days I have a team. I have a team of people who I actually report to. Though I started talking football, I now have a team of people who I actually report to. I have mentors as well who tell me like what to do before I make certain decisions, before I bring a certain person, how to act and everything. So I'm not really afraid when it comes to that, because I mean my team is, those are people who supported me from the start, and those are people who want to see things done to the best of our abilities. So I'm pretty sure it's better than being yourself. You can sometimes be easily influenced by the media to cover certain aspect of the story, but with a team, I'm pretty sure that we don't really have to worry about that.
I love that. And on that concept of having a team and having people you work with, earlier on you mentioned that when you did start off talking football, you were helped or given a little bit of a booster with the context that you had at the time that allowed you to get the first couple of people onto the show. And for you, I think for any kind of content creator, what do you think the importance of networking and having people in contact is? Like, how important is that? How crucial is that to have as a skill and as an asset?
Absolutely, man. Contacts, like I like to call it social capital. It's really amazing, man. It's really amazing. From high school, you remember me when we used to play a match, I would always talk to the opposite team, opposite coaches. And for me, it's really been something that I find it easy having. And for me, if it wasn't for a couple of contacts I had at that time, I wouldn't have started this, because it's really hard getting people on the show. Because
it is.
When you're starting, everyone is looking at like, what am I going to benefit from being on your platform? So being in contact, like I started with Dimashi, who was the St. George's College coach right now in Zimbabwe. He was also a Zimbabwe Warriors player back then. And funny enough, he actually, how we started talking was in high school. He actually saw me playing and he said, "Oh, you remind me about my playing days." And we actually started talking from then until now, like 5 years later. He's now on my show. So, I mean, that social capital for me is something that I don't take lightly. And as time goes on, people come on your show, your credibility, because people always want things that are credible. So, and social capital, if you do someone, they'll also tell someone that, I mean, it's a good podcast. And then someone tells someone, and it's easier now for you to approach those big names, because they now know about your show. Some of the players actually come in to view. So, I mean, it's something humbling, like watching your role model, some people you grew up admiring, and people who are still playing now you admire, just coming there. But it's due to all those connections we have. Yeah.
I think it's important as well. I love what you call it, social capital. It's a huge thing. And I think sometimes, especially for me, I didn't have had to learn to be more of an extrovert than anything else, because I'm a huge introvert. I love being in my own space, being in crowds, talking to people. It's not something that I'm really good at naturally. But I think you have to learn these things. It doesn't come easy. You just didn't wake up with 10, 15, 20 contacts on your phone. You had to work it, like you said.
You had to actively
for those. You had to actively make. You had to actively make a decision to go to the opposition team and start a conversation, to go to the opposition coach and start a conversation. And even after starting a conversation, following up 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, how are you doing? Are you well? How's life going? Things like that to maintain.
I'm actually glad that you brought up the point about following up as well. I mean, it's not easy following up, But in this industry, it's something that's needed. I mean, not just talking to someone when you need favors, but actually building,
Exactly. Yeah.
actually trying to build a genuine relationship with someone, because it also helps you and it helps them too to trust you, because it's easier for them to come to me to say their story because they know I'm not biased than going to the media because they know that the media might say something because they just want to sell the papers. So
That's so huge. That's so huge. Especially the point about feeling like you only go to them when you need something.
yeah, that's true.
And I think that tends to happen. And I think now with social media, it's very easy to get in touch with people only when you need something, you know?
Yeah,
View their statuses from afar, view their stories, watch their lives from afar, and feel like you're a part of their lives. But you're really not. You really don't know what's going on.
Yeah, for me, that's what
on
I usually
statuses
do.
and social.
I usually do, like, I watch Zimbabwe soccer a lot, South Africa soccer,
Yeah.
and I actually take my time to watch those players I've interviewed, and here and there I'm like, all the best in this game, well played, and it's something that really goes a long way because most of the people I've interviewed now, we actually close. We can call anytime. We can talk about pretty much anything. So yeah, for
that's game changing.
Follow up is really important in this industry.
That's game changing. I think it comes back to what I was saying. I feel like I'm getting way more than I bargained for. Like you're saying, I've got people in my contact list now, people who I've interviewed, people I'm here to interview, and I ask these people questions on a daily basis. We exchange conversation, we exchange knowledge that people on the podcast don't actually get to see. And I'm always like, I wish these podcasts would be long, 2-3 hours. Yeah, bro, because people have so much to offer. I feel people have so much to say. I feel like I'm just keeping it all to myself, but I think it's a privilege and an honor. And I do think it's a privilege and an honor to have people like you and other content creators on this platform. And I think you also mentioned something very important, very interesting, and you said it's not easy. When you start off and there's not much credibility, people look at you and they're like, what am I going to get out of this? And I know for myself, I've had instances where I've reached out to people and I've either not gotten a response at all, or they respond and they're kind of interested and they're trying to see Kuti Java Pay, and then when they realize Kuti, you've got 100 subs, they're like, you know what, they just stop replying. How have you ever experienced that? First of all, maybe you've never experienced that, and when you do experience it, how have you dealt with it?
Yeah, that's actually huge, bro. Like it actually it's a test of character as well. Because
yes,
you're drafting that message, that email, you're trying to send to the person and they just don't reply, or they see it. Some of them just see it and they don't reply. It's something that's happened a lot to me, especially when I was starting. That I text someone, they don't reply. I'm trying, but they're just not interested in your project. They're just not buying what you want to sell. So it's really hard for me. At first it was really hard because I was like, man, I'm doing all this and the people are just not buying into it. So for me it was a test of character, but it was definitely something that made me want to keep going, because it really motivated me that at least they're seeing it, and it just kept me going pretty much. Those are setbacks, but it's something that made me want to keep going, to just show that there's a good platform. And some of them actually say no, and then they end up coming later. So it's really a process.
It's huge.
And with everything, really, like, you have to take risks, and sometimes it fails, sometimes it happens. But yeah, I'm just glad for the people that came on my show, and yeah, it's really good.
You're so right. In terms of it's a process, and that's the process. It's all a learning process. I was speaking to someone, I think a couple months back, and they were like, you can either take a setback in one of two ways. You can either let it actually be a setback, bring you down, because things like that can bring you down. You're like, this thing's not working, it's a whatever thing, and you give up. Or you can take them as learning processes, as learning curves. Like, okay, what could I have done better? How could I have drafted the message differently? You go out and you ask questions. You're like, this is the message that I sent. Did I send it to the wrong person? Or could I have sent it in a different way? And you're trying to learn from the things that didn't go the way you anticipated them to go. And I think ultimately, above all of this, I think for me, it's always good to remember that God is in control. And I know you've got your famous saying, Jehovah watching it. And I love that so much. It's like,
always.
I love that so much because He is within all things. Always has been, is now, and will continue to be in all things. So sometimes it's like God's just protecting you and preserving you for when the time is right. Like you're saying, some of these people come back. They say no at first and then they come back. It's all in God's timing. So I've tried to find a lot of I've tried to find a lot of encouragement in that, and a lot of strength in knowing Kuti, it's just the beginning. People are looking to get value out of what you are trying to sell, and it's not always the case with all people. It's not always the case with all people.
Yeah, that's true.
I think
I'm actually glad. For me, the good thing about me is I talk to guys. I mean, we play for the national team like Edo Betina, Tapiwa Manungo. Those guys have been really
legends, bro. Legends.
Yeah, I mean, those guys have been influencing me a lot, and they've held my hand. They're willing to walk with me on this journey. They help me a lot with everything that they can. You've got Munyarazi as well, former Dynamos and Highlanders goalkeeper, always in contact with them. I mean, those guys are really good guys, and I mean, I've built friendships as well with current players as well who are playing for Dynamos, Caps United, and I mean, it's really nice. It's really nice. It's.
But how does it feel for you having grown up watching these teams from afar, from the stands, and now being able to speak to the people? I mean, I've watched your show, bro. Like, you are really passionate. Like, you would tell us a goal that happened, 10, 15 years ago, and how it happened, and who scored, and the backflip that he did, and which shoe he kicked it with. And you know the studs he was wearing as well. Like, you remember the details
even the
to the T. Like, how does it...
Even the ball.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm like, how does it feel now to be in a space where you're hearing directly from these people?
For me, I would say it's a really humbling experience. Never even in my wildest imaginations, I would think I would be able to talk to Tapiwa Manungo. Never in my wildest imagination did I ever think that I would talk to a PSG goalkeeper. I would talk to Matthew.
Yeah.
People who played in the World Cup of 2010. I would talk to KG,
wild.
who played for Crystal Palace. I mean, those are big names in African soccer and in the world as well. And to be honest, never in the wildest of imagination did I think I would ever talk to those guys. But it's, for me, it's really a humbling experience, getting now to ask about things that happened 10, 15 years ago. Because for me, I started going to the stadiums when I was 8. I would go to watch Caps United, and I was really
by yourself.
I started going by myself at 11, but around 8 I would go with my uncle. With my uncle. Shout out to Sacred Jimmy. Thank you so much. I mean, he's one person that that really made me want to follow football like that. So for me, I mean, it's really humbling just getting to know, like, that day you scored this, that day you got that red card, what was going through your mind, So it's really nice just getting the first-hand information about the story,
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing getting the inside scoop. You feel exclusive.
Yeah,
sometimes hearing, even now sitting down with you and hearing all these things, I'm like, when people watch your show, they kind of just see the final product. They really don't know what goes on.
I mean, for some players, you know them, but at the end of the day, you want to get it right. You don't want to go in.
You want to get it right. Oh, I love that.
I love that. Half-baked information. You don't want to look stupid in public. So it's the preparation that goes on. I remember the first days before studying. I have absolutely no background in journalism. The first days I was studying, I mean, I would sleep at 3 to 4 a.m., bro.
Doing research.
And then at the end of it, there's 3 people watching, and those 3 people are from your house. So it's it wasn't easy at first. It wasn't easy, I would say.
It's funny.
But I mean, as time goes on, you just gain those people. And for me, the good thing, I wasn't really doing this for followers. And so, I mean, the followers naturally came. I mean, we recently clocked 1,300, if I'm not mistaken. 12.
Let's go, boys!
But,
yes, sir.
But for me, it was something really at the back of my mind. I just wanted to hear these people's stories. I wanted, even if there was one person who was to learn, I was proud. And I was learning as well from it. Talking to guys like Tifon Chafa playing now. And yeah, luckily, quite the most successful captain, they say, in South Africa, who was Orlando Pirates captain, who's won more than 10 trophies with Orlando Pirates. So, yeah, I mean, for me, that was...
No, that's huge. No, that's huge. I love it. And I think having a vision and knowing what you want before you start this thing is big. Because if you had gone into it and the mentality and the idea was, I want followers, and you get 3 people, 4 people on your first 5 shows, that's going to demotivate you.
Yes.
That's definitely going to demotivate you. But if you go into it and you're like, I want one person to get something out of this, and out of those 3 people, one person comes in, they're like, Taps, I love this. This helped me A, B, C, D. That's huge for you.
Yeah,
that's huge.
And those comments, bro, keep you going. For me, to be honest, there are some points where I'm like, why am I even doing this? But someone actually comes and like, I learned this. I mean, I really like this player and I learned this. Oh, yeah. For me, it really keeps me going. It really keeps me on my toes as well, to just want to do the best for those people that believe in me, to never let them down, and to never...
Yeah, it's a huge morale booster, bro. Like I'm always telling people, if you've got friends, if you've got people who are doing anything entrepreneurial, if they're chasing any kind of dream, tell them they're doing well. Tell them you appreciate it. Tell them, say kind words, because you don't know how much people sit down and think about giving up sometimes.
That's true, bro. That's true.
Yeah, bro. It's
one
really
small comment can turn around everything, bro. One small comment without even the person knowing. So those small comments.
So I love that so much, and I can definitely relate to you when it comes to things like that. But I think looking at the future and looking forward, I don't know if you've thought about it much. You don't have to answer it if you haven't thought about it, but it's like, what is your vision or plan for Talking Football? Is it something that you want to continue to do and continue to grow?
Lately, I've been talking with my team, and we see growth, but it's just a matter of just sometimes taking a step back. Like now we are rebranding, we're just taking a step back. We're just looking at things we could have done better. We're just doing a review. And to be honest, for me, I love that. I see growth in this. And, for me, like I always say, like, people are starting to notice a couple of corporates are coming in and they also want to help or to advertise. And it's something that we might be doing in future. Like, I mean, with the numbers we have as well, we can advertise for people. And yeah, that's pretty much. And we want to do something for charity. I mean, I've also been talking to my team. We are actually planning a Talking Football tournament, but with this COVID, yeah,
let's go.
With this COVID, I mean, it's really hard at the moment since there's this COVID. And also, like, I mean, I talked to many goalkeepers. Actually, I was actually talking to Mnyara Zitia, and he said, why are we not hosting a Talking Football goalkeeper tournament for the youngsters, for the less privileged?
Let's go.
I mean, there's a lot of talent right there in Zimbabwe, and some kids,
untapped talents.
Definitely. So some kids are less privileged and they can't afford to go to those big academies. Why can't we bring it to them? I mean, I talked to many goalkeepers, like I said, Tapiwa Manungo, Nyara Zitia, Ephraim Mazarura, those guys. I mean, so I've actually talked to some of them, and they're in to just do a goalkeeper thing, and later on maybe it might as well grow to an academy. who knows? But I mean,
Oh,
it's something that we have.
we pray for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one step at a time. Something we've been discussing with my team, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, I was just been discussing with our team, and we'll see where this takes us.
We love it. Yeah, we love it, and we can't wait to see it. I was talking to someone literally just like 2 days ago, maybe, and I was like, if your dreams aren't scary, then they're not big enough. You know, I mean, talking about studying an academy, that's huge, man, and that's big, and we love to see big. And honestly, I don't doubt that you and the team that you have can make that happen. And I mean, heading that team, of course, is God, right?
Of course,
I know Gucci
definitely.
with him. I know Gucci with him. Nothing is impossible. Right?
God is in control.
Continually, you and your entire team and your entire project will be in our prayers, and we can't wait to see you grow into what you envisioned it to become. You know, a legacy, if anything, right? But you mentioned something as well about COVID. Twice now you mentioned COVID, and initially you were like, it was a blessing in disguise, and it makes sense. I can definitely relate. This podcast is a brainchild of COVID and everything that it entails.
Yes.
But now you just mentioned COVID again, and you're like, oh, it's so restricted. We can't do what we want to do because of COVID. So there's highs and lows, good and bad things that are going on in and amongst this pandemic that we're in. But for you personally, inwardly as a human being, looking at your character, looking at who you are, how you've grown, and things like that, how do you think COVID has helped you, or which are the tough things that COVID has had to put you through? This could be creatively or not creatively as well.
For me, the tough things that COVID have brought up is, losing a lot of opportunities, losing some deals as well. There were some corporates as well who wanted to partner with us, but due to COVID, they just don't have the capacity anymore. And they were hoping that it would stop, but at this point it's still going on. So we've lost some corporates who wanted to invest in us as well. But the good thing about this thing as well is it managed to help me managed to give me more time to just think. There's a time I was in quarantine for a long time.
Yeah.
And it actually helped me kickstart this project because it was a thought for a long time. But just to give me that platform, it was due to the COVID. So, like you said, it had many highs and lows. But for me as well, like I said, I was injured. And just that time, it gave me, not training with other people, it gave me a lot of time to just study the game, to actually study other organizations that are doing interviews like Sky Sports. And I've also had mentors, like I told you, I think in the past, that I've been talking to people. There's my guy from England, his name is Dej, and Dot. Those guys are really doing phenomenal. They were just recently, they were interviewing Brendan Rodgers, the Leicester City coach. They interviewed Daniel Sturridge as well.
Wow.
And just to name a few, they interviewed Rio Ferdinand as well. Those guys, I really look up to those guys, and I've had the privilege also to be on the phone with them, and I'm always in constant communication. They are one of my mentors. So it's had its ups and downs, but for me, I really like looking at the ups of it because it has really helped me even develop my soccer skills. I feel like I'm better than I was before, even when I was before. Yeah, like
before the injury.
Now now I got to work on my strength, my conditioning, and everything. So it's been something that has really helped. So I just decided to look at the positives really more.
I love that.
And
that's big. I love that. I think I mentioned it also, I think a little bit when I was talking about how you choose to look at setbacks. You can either choose to really suck it up and let it bring you down, or you can choose to look at the positives which you've done. And I love to see that. And it's not disregarding the terrible things that COVID has brought around. It's definitely been a tough time for a lot of different people. But it's also brought out a lot of positive things in a lot of different people, and I think we need to embrace those and find strength in those, to bring us through these times. So we appreciate your podcast so much. We appreciate your show and what you have going on, the work that you're putting on behind the scenes, and continually reaching out to people and remaining in contact with people and planning all these things for all these people. Sometimes people will never know what's going on. Sometimes people will never know what's going on. They're just at the end of the tunnel, enjoying what you brought out from that dark tunnel. You were in there mining, looking for all the goodies, and then you come out, man, one go the good content. They're seeing all these tournaments in the academy, but the grind you put in, they don't see it. I just want to say we appreciate it. On behalf of everyone, we appreciate it a ton.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the people, you guys who watch. I also want to thank the people who've helped me a lot. I mean, of course, I can't name everyone, but special shout out to Eddie Mashi, the first person to come on my podcast. Special shout out to you as well. I mean, people might not know that most of those flyers that we put out, it's you, the designer for those flyers, and some of the shows as well. You are the brains behind them. So special shout out to you too. Special shout out to Tapiwa Manungo, Tia, Lucky Lekwati, Matthew Booth, Leroy Mafunga, and just to name a few. I mean, you guys, thank you so much for your help, your support, and just coming on the podcast too. Edo Bettina, it's been helping me also get all some of the players I can't reach by myself.
Wow.
So I mean, thank you to those guys. I mean, without even the viewers as well that watch, I mean,
you wouldn't be here, right?
Without you guys.
That's so true. That is so true. We wouldn't be where we are without the people watching our stuff, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't have been having this interview right now. So shout out to those people. Even my parents, they are always supportive. My brother is always tuning in. My sister as well, and my parents. So thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate that.
We love to see it so much. We love it. And it's good to take time to realize what's going on around you. To think, when I started that Instagram page, there was nobody. And now I'm sitting at 1,300. These people aren't following you, Taps. They're following a brand. It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think about, bro. So
it's crazy, man. Starting with 10 followers,
bruh.
I remember so much.
And those are 10 people you know, right? This is your friends. These are your 10 boys.
People you know.
These are your boys. But now it's like
9 minus my personal account.
It's actually 9 minus your personal account. So, and then you remove your sister and your brother. That's down to 7 people. And then 2 people from church. Now we're at 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, thinking about it, bro,
it's crazy to see the
it's huge.
In this thing. It's crazy.
It's huge.
But,
I think
like you said,
what I do when I look at those numbers, I always think the high school I went to, I think of 4,500, as students. And we used to fill up that hole, bro. And I'm like, so multiply that by 2. And that's how many people I have tuning in. That's how many people I have following me. Some people I would never meet. Some people I'll never have the honor to thank personally.
Yeah, and some people who are always asking, when are you coming back?
Dude, you know what I mean? So people are tuning in.
Chilled for a bit. But I promise that we're coming back soon. In this month of June, it's going to be a huge month. And I'm excited for what's going to happen and the guests who are going to come on as well.
No, we love to see it. And I think you mentioned something very important there. About just taking a minute out, pausing and reflecting and reviewing. That's super huge, that's super important. I think it's easy then to get caught up in the grind and caught up in the demand, because now there's a demand for your product. There's a demand for your work.
True.
People want to see your stuff. So it's easy now to continue pumping out the content for the sake of the demand, but you aren't actually taking time to improving what you're doing, to improving the product. So I love what you and your team have going on, in taking time to pause, reflect, and build and actually grow. So I think that's very important in any creative life, and all businesses do that. Everybody needs to do that. To stop for a bit and be like, okay, where are we now? Where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there? And we've definitely noticed some content missing, but we don't doubt that you guys are working hard to be back in the scene.
We're working hard not to give half-baked product.
Yes,
we want to give them full value for their data.
Data is not cheap, eh? Data is not cheap.
It's definitely not cheap. I mean, I actually appreciate all those guys who actually, even time, the importance of time. That's time they're not going to get back there watching. So I'm just glad if they learn one or two things. I mean, that will be value for their time. So
that's huge. I love it. For you, like we mentioned earlier, you introduced yourself that you're studying in the States. So here you are studying in the States, but simultaneously trying to build a brand. I think my question is on the management of those two, on the balance of those two. And it's over and beyond that, it's your social life as well. And then there's church.
And you forgot to say soccer as well.
And soccer as well, right? It's a lot. Already
it's a full-time job.
Already
like
it's big.
My day goes like in the morning I have class from until 12. And then in the afternoon, there's soccer practice as well. And you have to constantly talk to these players, coaches, and to plan this thing. So I mean, and also you have homework. I mean, it hasn't been easy.
The grind.
That's why I actually look for a team that can help me, because by myself it was getting tiresome. I mean, it was getting tiresome.
So okay, I think you mentioned getting a team has helped you sort of find a balance and being able to navigate and manage everything that is demanding of your time and energy. But how else besides having a team, which is huge? And I mean, okay, let's talk about people who can't have a team, people who don't have people around them. How do you think would be the best way for them to manage all these things and balance it out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was me for a long time.
Yeah, you didn't start off with a team, right?
Yeah, I started off by myself. But yeah, I mean, it can be done. It can be done. It just needs consistency. But you need to plan your day. It starts with planning your day. Just planning, being disciplined. I mean, anyone can do that. Planning their day, being disciplined, and making sure that they are maximizing their time. Because once you have all these things going on in your life, once you start procrastinating, see the one thing you're going to sacrifice between school, soccer, or talking football. So, it's just about planning your day. I mean, planning your day, being organized. I'm pretty sure it's done for all those that cannot afford a team. I mean,
routine.
It can be done.
Routine. Get a routine, get a plan. And I think to complement that, a whole lot of discipline as well. Because if you've got a routine and a timetable and you're not really following it, then it's kind of null and void. It doesn't serve its purpose. It doesn't serve its purpose.
That's true.
A lot of discipline is needed there. So I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate your vulnerability. But my man, thank you so much again for joining me, taking time out of your schedule, running around to make it possible for this thing to happen. I really do appreciate you coming here.
I mean, thank you so much. It's been a long time coming, but
it's been too long. Patience is key.
Thank you so much. I mean,
thank
you so much. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for the platform. At least now people know about talking football.
Always, and they will continue to know. We'll continue to make noise. It's my pleasure. I think I just have one more question for you before we wrap it up, before we shut it down. And it's that if you were looking at the younger version of yourself, there's two young versions of yourself. So the first one we're looking at is the young footballer with dreams. And the second one is the young creative, the young entrepreneur with a dream to start something. I think you mentioned you had this idea back in high school, to start this football thing and to build it into a brand and an academy and all these things. So the two are the young footballer at age 8, 11, and the young entrepreneur, businessman, and content creator Looking back at them now, and you know what you know, and you've gone through the journey that you've gone through. If you were able to sit down with them and have a 5-minute conversation with them and tell them this is what you need to look out for, this is how the world really is, what would you tell those 2 young boys?
What I would tell them, the content creator, is always believe in yourself. I mean, for me, growing up, I always had doubts. And for me, I tried clubs like debate, and I suffered with that. I wasn't good enough with that. So for me, I would say, don't let the world limit you. I mean, studying as well. I mean, I would tell people that I want to interview this guy. I want to interview this guy. I want to interview Tapiwa Manungo. Even I myself didn't believe. It was just nice talking about it. But sometimes believing in yourself. And for me, you know me pretty much. I wasn't good at talking in formal places and stuff like that. I wasn't really confident. But I mean, I would just tell myself to be confident. Just be out there and get as many contacts as you can. Build networks, build relationships. Later
that's
on,
big.
Think yourself.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's something I would have told myself back. I would tell my younger version of me that just believe in yourself. Anything, the sky is the limit, right? Yeah, sky is the limit. Yeah.
And the young footballer.
The young footballer, I would say, keep working hard. Sometimes I feel like if I had worked harder, I would be somewhere. But I mean, I'll just keep saying work harder. I mean, train hard. And
what, bro?
Opportunities will always come.
I know a few people who've worked harder than you, Tabs. Dudes.
And I
work harder.
I would also tell him that, I mean, treat every game like it's a final. I mean, that's something that I've learned after COVID, because anything can be taken away. This season as well. I mean, 2 of our games were taken away because of COVID.
Wow.
So it's something that I've learned to appreciate each game, because you never know. You might be positive with COVID and you might miss 2 more games, or the season might be shut. Because our full season in 2020, we didn't play it. We ended up playing it earlier this year.
Really?
So fortunately, after missing those games, we were champions as well. But it was something that was hard. It was something that was character building. But just take each game as a final, and you're 1 person away from your breakthrough. So just make as many contacts as you can, and be the student of the game. Learn. For me, I learned through watching. Just by watching.
And you do a lot of reading as well, right? I've seen you investing a lot in books written by legends in the game as well.
I'm actually currently reading Alex Ferguson's book and Thierry Henry's book. So
you're reading 2 books at the same time.
Yeah.
No, this man is a legend. this man is a legend.
Those guys are really legends.
But could we probably expect a book from you sometime?
Maybe one day in the future.
No pressure.
Maybe pressure. In future.
But yeah, being a student in the game, I love that aspect. Always constantly learning, and I think it's easy as well to feel like I think I've learned enough. I think I'm at a place where I've earned it all.
Yes.
It's easy for the numbers to speak as well. Seeing 1,000 people following you, you're like, you relax. You're like, I don't need to.
You have to constantly look for ways to grow. And those books actually keep me on my toes all the time. So.
And which one's been your favorite book so far, and why?
I mean, for me, Alex Ferguson. I mean, Alex Ferguson says a lot. I mean, especially about how his time almost got fired from Manchester United and from building a dynasty and everything. So he was on the brink of getting fired. But
really,
he turned things around. his first year, he had 6 wins in 26 games, and everyone wanted him fired, but
They kept him. They had faith in him.
yes, and the rest is history. He's a legend. So yeah. I mean, I'm actually excited to going to the cinema tonight to watch his movie. So I'm actually excited about that too.
That's super dope. I think I'll probably try and tune in either on the movie or is it a documentary? Is it a movie or the book as well?
I think it's a movie. It's a movie that recently came out last week. So
I definitely respect him. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't respect him. Despite them being fans of the opposite team or the rival team, people do respect Alex Ferguson and the legacy that he has left.
Definitely.
To the game. And I think just to touch on that a little bit as well, as an individual, as an entrepreneur, content creator, a soccer player, as a friend, a brother, a son, hopefully one day a father, wink wink. But like what one day but what legacy would you love to leave? What would you want people to remember you for? When you think and hear the name Tapiwa Manungo, what do you want them to correlate that to?
For me, I would want to be remembered as someone who always gives his best. Someone who always gives his best. Someone who is kind. Someone who is willing to help. That's one person who also wants to try.
Yeah.
Someone who's going to give someone hope when everyone else is telling them that they cannot do it. Because I was also helped by people.
That's
and
huge.
I see no reason why I can't help someone else. I mean, it shouldn't be about money all the time, So, I mean, that's for me the legacy I want to be remembered for.
It's so simple. It's so simple and so humble.
Simple.
It's so simple. It's nothing new to extravagant. Yeah. It's I think what you basically explained there was just being the best human being that you're required to be. Being kind and caring and giving, which we love to see so much. And I appreciate you again being here and the vulnerability and all the wise things that you've shared, all the experiences that you've shared. And I hope that people can learn from this. If at all a young footballer or a young aspiring talk show host can tune in and see what you're doing, they can be inspired. But I think you shared so many things as well that aren't specifically related to soccer or content creation that could impact a lot of different people. So we appreciate you being here, man. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care and be safe.
Likewise, take care, man. Thanks.